أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sorry for the delay, but you used to it anyway, so this is how we operate, unfortunately. So inshallah, we will start our what is it called? Yearly. There's an annual. Okay, yeah. Annual, Thanksgiving retreat. Inshallah, we decided to have it on the week after the Thanksgiving, so that our friends can join easily. And I see that it pays. So Alhamdulillah, thank you for coming here. So we will start with the first session, and this year we will have 3 sessions. And like before even starting preparing for this retreat, we had another like a mini retreat workshop and asked people what would be their biggest challenges in life, especially in campus and around. And a few topics came as the most maybe important, challenging, and so on for our the audience. And one of them was so I will go not in order of the sessions, but one of them was especially around the Penn campus, Drexel campus, and so on, what we can call as perfectionism, like trying to be perfect. Right? This is how we been taught from the beginning, like even from the early ages. Oh, this is good job, you have to do it best, you have to do it the great, you have to be the best student, best mom, best father, best children, whatever. So that was a big source of stress and challenge, as people mentioned. And then another one was about the seeking praise. Just to feel yourself good, you have this need to be praised. Oh, you are great, Birkan. You are, so I don't know, tall. You are so something. And he's so powerful. He can, grab his son with just one arm. Alhamdulillah. So that was a big challenge. Another big challenge, that constantly seeking to be praised, seeking for praise. And the third topic, among many others, was loneliness. Especially, like there are many different aspects, our friends will touch upon it, but there are different types of loneliness that we all experience, even within such a crowd. So inshallah, we will then talk about the loneliness. So the first session, as you can see, it's about seeking praise from people and doing it a lot myself. I said maybe I should be preparing for this topic with my beloved friends. One here, the other one, where are you? Okay, yeah, Kadir, yeah. A small group of us studied it, and Zerin kindly led us. So inshallah, she will lead the discussions as well, right? So, yeah, without further maybe the waste of your time, maybe we should start. And as usual, so there might be some people who are just joining us. So our style is, when we have a problem, we say, okay, this problem is given to me, and just like everything else in this, the life that I experience, it is being created, right? I don't have any other explanation, like how such a feeling, if I feel lonely, for instance, may come to existence. I say it must be created, right? We will touch upon this maybe in more details. But we say, okay, if this problem or the thing that we see as a problem is given to us, then an answer must be given as well. Because whoever is creating everything around me, including this feeling, whatever it is, creating wisely. There is nothing but wisdom in the creation. That's what I experience. There is nothing but encompassing knowledge in the creation. That's what I experience. So whoever gave me this feeling must be also give me the answer. This is our style. And we say, okay, give me guidance. Then we have this book in front of us, which says, I am here for guidance. So we open the book, we start studying it, try to see whether we can really find guidance or not. That's our usually approach. So we will follow the same approach here. We will share a few maybe ayahs with you from Quran, and then try to understand them. So we have some, of course, scholarly text and someone explaining these ayahs, and we benefited them as a lot. If you are interested, we can also share them with you as well. But most of the discussions that you will be hearing, at least from a method perspective, not word by word from a scholar, but following a method of Imam Nursi, if you are familiar with the name. If you are not, doesn't matter. Just listen. If it makes sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So yeah, we will start, inshallah, by learning how to click. Yes. With this ayah from Ali Imran. But maybe before even starting this ayah, maybe we should understand what we mean with seeking praise. So because we are so crowded, probably we cannot accommodate every the will of yours to speak, but at least I will, and she will, I assume. I don't want to speak on behalf of you, of course, but we will ask you sometimes questions, and this is one of these times. So when we talk about seeking praise, right, from others especially, so what comes to your mind? Let's start from there. So do you seek praise? Do you seek to be praised? In what occasions? What type of praise you are most after? So I know, for instance, my friend Qadir is so interested in when he has a beautiful T-shirt. Somebody needs to say it, right? It has to acknowledge that, oh, Qadir, your fashion choice is great, right? This is one example. With me, there will be some dark examples, so I will not share from the beginning. So let's start with you. So to assume maybe voluntary, you don't, not everybody has to speak, but yeah. And if you can just circulate the microphone.
I like it when I make my breakfast in the morning, my omelette that my wife tells me was a tasty omelette.
Okay. And if she doesn't?
Then I get upset.
Anyone else? Just a bit more, maybe. Okay, nobody's just speaking for praise.
They couldn't follow that act.
Yeah, okay, yeah, maybe. Well, it was a good example. It was a good example, yeah. Yeah, alhamdulillah, it was a good example. So maybe another example, you sit in front of people and then you start speaking, and sometimes I can see Abdurrahman's, the confirming me with his looks that somebody has to acknowledge your beautiful speech or, the points that you make. Otherwise, you get upset, right? And how about you?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So I would say that this topic especially kind of is something I personally struggle with as well, because I think my first instinct, which I'm guessing is probably similar for many of you, is when I do something good or nice for someone, I sort of have this automatic expectation that I will receive some sort of praise for that action, or if I give a compliment, maybe I expect a compliment back. Like if I say, oh, Qadir has a great fashion sense, maybe it would be nice if he acknowledged my excellent fashion sense. Alhamdulillah, that's not the case, but as an example. So really trying to think, how do I move away from this maybe, and sort of thinking about why this sort of desire is placed in me, and sort of what's the solution to that. I think these are some points that really spoke to me in terms of how I go about my daily life as well. I also work in a lab here, and a lot of the expectations in research is that you're doing all these experiments and work for praise from others. Like, for example, if you publish a paper, you would want other people to look at your work and use it and cite it, and that gives you some sort of prestige in the academic field, for example. So yeah, I guess this topic is feels very relevant to me. All of the topics do, but I think this one is definitely something I feel a connection to.
Now that our little Zainab is going to school, let's say, even if she draws a small rainbow or just a little letter, oh, awesome, what a nice picture it is. So, and you do see that she gets happy with that. So being appreciated is something that we are happy with, but it's not only that, we start having this expectation to be praised. No matter what, we enjoy it, but this joy comes up with an expectation as well. So if I do something, let's say Zainab draws this nice letter, and I do not congratulate her or appreciate her or praise her, saying, oh, that's awesome, then she's not going to be willing to do it again. So we have this tendency to do it, and it's everywhere.
So that's a great point. And I personally think that it's not something we learn later. It's not, the socially constructed, that we are seeking for praise. When I say it like that, with like a seeking for praise, it sounds like it's something negative. It has a negative connotation for sure, and it does to some extent. But I also think this feeling, as Yusuf was just exemplifying, it's there almost from birth. And there are some studies, for instance, showing that, like, when you cut this praise, like the praise relationship with your children, certain, the developments go awkward. So it's something there from the beginning, and it needs to be somehow shaped, like a train, it seems. It's not something you have to get rid of. And maybe we can start from there, Zarin. Like, maybe we can start. What is going on there? Like, when we take this experience and trying to understand what is going on, what we are seeking for, why we are doing it. Maybe that would be a good starting point. And I would at least be reluctant to take it as, oh yeah, it shows your, the lack of dignity, or, not you don't have your self-worth, and so on and so forth. That would be, I would say, not a constructive point of view. But rather, let's try to see with Zainab, or, the Bushra, this, what was the name again? Sorry?
Yeah.
Ilyas. For Ilyas, like, I'm sure Ilyas wants to be praised. And I'm sure he's an innocent child, right? So there is nothing to be criticized there. We should try to learn what it means, maybe. So the question is, what, maybe we can start from there. What do you think? Like, what we are after there when we, talk about the praise? What happens? And maybe the ayah can help us. The way it starts, لا تحسبن الذين يفرحون بما أتوا. Don't think that those who are enjoying, rejoicing, what they achieve, right? What they achieve. So ayah says, there's an achievement there, and you are enjoying it. So this is the human state. So when we read Quran, we should always take it as I said at the beginning, as a guidance, not a the rule. You shouldn't take it as a normative, the sentence saying that you should do that or you shouldn't do that, but rather explaining you your human state, human condition. Okay? So this is your human condition, that when you bring something forward, you can translate this bima ata also as like what you bring forward. This is what I did, right? And you enjoy it, the ayah says. So maybe, we can start from there. What do you think? Like, what we are enjoying there?
Yeah, so I think one aspect of this that comes to my mind is that perhaps we are enjoying this acknowledgement from others that we've done something good, and that makes us feel better about ourselves, because perhaps we have that sort of innate desire to want to be, for example, like a good person, a good family member, a good friend. Like that brings us a sort of happiness, I would say. And that's something I think perhaps that we want to hold on to. Like we want to be acknowledged as good people. I think at a human, just instinctual level.
So the goodness, that's let's go even a little bit deeper. Like when we talk about the achievement, so what comes to mind? The achievement, it means it's something good. It's something beautiful. It's something, at least a signpost for a perfection. And these are the things as human beings that we are after. Right? We want to chase, we want to get something good in our life, something beautiful in our life. So this is what at least come to my mind when we talk about the achievement. So if something is ugly, useless, I don't know, bad, I wouldn't call it as achievement, right? When I don't know, if there's my kids playing with the Legos and I go and destroy it, it's not an achievement, obviously, right? It's not something good, beautiful. So, but when my daughter builds, a perfect castle, I say this is an achievement. Because, when I look at it, I see a goodness in that. All these qualities. Oh, she's talented, I say. The talent. So with achievements, I think we humans, we mean that goodness, beauty. And maybe we can call it as perfection, little perfections in our life. And of course, it needs to be also perpetual, like it needs to continue. If it is good there and then destroyed, we don't like it. So when ayah or when we also talk about achievement, this is what we mean: goodness, beauty in our lives. So ayah says, those who enjoy, rejoice when they see goodness and beauty in life. This is what ayah says. And I said, this is me, right? And I'm sure everybody would say the same thing. Yeah, the ayah is talking about me. And Quran is always talking about you, for sure. And I said, yeah, this is good. Nothing wrong with that. We all seek for goodness, perfection, beauty, and so on. And then ayah continues saying something else. وَيُحِبُّونَ أَنْ يُحْمَدُوا بِمَا لَمْ يَفْعَلُوا. And then want to be praised for something they don't do. So there's an achievement there, there's a goodness there, there's a beauty there, and I want to enjoy it. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But I says, but you don't stop there. You don't just want to enjoy it, but actually wants to get some credit for something you didn't do. And then I guess this is where this praise part starts. Whether it is problematic or not, we have to discuss for sure. But I don't know, is it clear so far how it goes? Is there any question? Not comments yet, but questions that this is not clear. I didn't understand where you are going and so on. Please. Help.
So as the ayah like differentiates, at least I think, when it says, and everything that those who rejoice in what they have achieved and like to be praised. So is it talking about like two different characteristics, or is it like joining the two together? So it's like two different sets of people, like one who like to be rejoice in what they've achieved, and one who like to be praised for something they didn't do. So like two different sets, or is it like talking about the same group of people?
And also, can your daughter say, oh, this ayah doesn't apply to me because I did build that castle? Can she say that?
That's what we say all the time. So yeah, both are good questions. The way, but before I say something, Zarin, I speak too much. I apologize. Yeah.
No worries.
Somebody needs to, stop me.
Yeah, I definitely one thing that stuck out to me was before we answer the questions was sort of this desire for continuing goodness, and I think that's an important point that we'll probably bring up again a bit later. But as for Zarar's point, I think sort of from my understanding of this is that being able to rejoice in something good that you have, that for me seems more of like a natural reaction, like, oh, I did something good and I know this. And then kind of I feel like these two things go hand in hand. Like, I did something good and now I want someone to acknowledge that I did something good, so that perhaps that means that I am indeed the owner of this good thing. Like Dua is saying, like, I feel like our initial reactions are more sort of wanting to hold on to this success or achievement that we did. For example, Bushra building like a beautiful tower, like you said,
Castle.
Yes, that's an important distinction. So she'll say, yes, I built it. And so I am the owner of this castle. And I think that's kind of what we tend to do, like on a daily basis. For example, with the omelet, I made this wonderful omelet for my like family member. And but I guess the question is, if we want this success to continue, are we the ones capable of continuing that? For example, I might be able to make an omelet very beautifully one time, but then maybe the next time I mess up, I can't flip the egg right and it turns out a mess. So I think that's also like something that maybe we can transition to as well, is like, are we actually capable of being in complete control over these successes, are we able to continue them perpetually? And if not, does that really make us the owner of these?
So maybe I can continue from there, going back to Zara's question, which is, I think, really important. I mean, I'm not an expert, but grammatically, it seems like it's talking about the same people. Otherwise, I would expect something like, وَالَّذِينَ يُحِبُّ, but it's just وَيُحِبُّ. And as Zarin said, I think this is like there's natural transition in our experiences. When we have goodness there, we directly want to be, as Aya says, want to be praised. We directly want to be, receiving this hamd. And just like, the use of child, when it's a negative example, it's use of child. When it's a good example, might. So, just like, the Bushra, my daughter, I think it's natural that when she does something good, the expectation, because the way she shows me, like, it's so obvious that she wants to be, the praised. It's not like, oh, Daddy, look at this beautiful thing that I happen to have. Let's enjoy together. This is not the attitude, right? She says, look at it, I did this. So the transition is, I guess, very natural. And the question is what we are doing there, maybe why we are doing it. And my understanding is that there are many, of course, dimensions, but one is we want to be valuable in the eyes of something. And our life is kind of, the training place of finding this someone. In the eyes of whom I will be valuable, I will be loved. And we try first our father, we realize that he's more interested in his work, and then we, disappointed. And then for maybe mother, we are usually more successful, but to some point, the moment she start raising her, the voice, we say, oh, maybe that's not the, the actual target that I'm looking for. And then it becomes our partners, friends, boss, and so on and so forth. The entire life, we are seeking for, someone that in the eyes of whom, we will be valuable. That's one, I guess, dimension there. Another thing is, when people praise us, it's like a kind of confirmation of this goodness, the beauty. Because, I want beauty in my life. I want goodness in my life. And when Asim says, oh, Birkan, this is a delicious, the food that you prepared, it's a confirmation that I have this goodness in my life. And I need this confirmation because, deep inside, I know that this food, yeah, it's delicious, but it doesn't satisfy me. My, the actual needs as a human being, it doesn't satisfy me. So I need all these confirmations from others. No, Birkan, this is good. Yeah, you can rely on that your entire life. Eat delicious food and you will be fine. I guess that's another dimension. Maybe another one is when we have this beauty and goodness in our lives, we want to hold on it, right? We want to keep it with us. Like the goodness, beauty needs to be with me all the time. And if I can, own it, it means I can maybe protect it. It won't leave me, right? I see that, I can prepare delicious food. And when people start praising me, it's like, oh, it's under protection, because if I created this taste, I can do it next as well. If not, if it is just floating in the air, this goodness, I wouldn't know how to achieve it, how to get it next moment. But if I convince myself that's my doing, then the next moment as well, I can do it again. So it's like, giving me this false, I would say, and maybe explain next, false security, sense of security that, yes, Birkan, you will have this goodness and beauty, perfection in your life all the time because it is attached to you. And as long as I exist, as long as I live, I will be. If people are praising my success, for instance, I start faking myself that I am successful, I am beautiful, I am handsome, I am whatever, wise. And it attached to me. So wherever I go, it comes with me. So these are maybe different dimensions, at least, we were able to think of. As I said, we've been studying this topic with 5 friends. But anyway, so yeah, if it answers your question, Zarar, I think it's the same people and it's us, and we do it for maybe this kind of reasons. Yeah, please.
So let's in this room, if I were to say that Haidar is the smartest of all of us.
Make it more realistic.
So if you keep hearing it from 3 people, 5 people, 7 people, you really start behaving different. So, or at least this is how it happens with me. And whenever somebody says, oh, somebody flatters me, this curvature of my smile is a little bit upwards. I'm starting to really believe in it. And then Atik comes into the room and people then start saying, oh, Atik is smarter. Then I fall into this insecurity now because am I not as smart? What do you mean? So then I start envying Atik or this. I guess this is what is happening, seems to be happening in here. Because I know what I am, but as people say that, oh, I am that good or whatever, I love hearing this. I start imagining myself to be something more. But when it gets threatened with this other guy coming into the room, then it's giving a lot of insecurity, pain to me.
Now we will come to this pain now, inshallah. Thank you for hijacking. Yeah.
I guess if I could add on to that, maybe sort of to summarize that point, is that we want to be unique in sort of these good qualities that are assigned to us, so that when we see another person with these qualities, that it feels now like a competition, like now I have to fight with this person in order to receive this acknowledgement or praise from everyone. So I think this could also lead into some of the further sort of ayats we'll be talking about sort of maybe this desire to be like uniquely appreciated as well.
Jazakallah khairan. So there's a comment. What is the? Okay. So yeah. So far maybe we talk about all these different maybe reasons, dimensions, and so on that we are doing this. Right? There's an achievement. There's goodness, beauty, and we want to take credit out of it. And I guess it's also related to our, let's say, like we said, I want to be valuable, and even maybe deeper than that, I want to know that I exist. Right? It's also related to that, I guess, when Abdurrahman start praising something about me, it's also confirmation of me. Even if there's no goodness or not, I exist. And even this appreciation of, my existence is something that I, value a lot. So, but the interesting, then what do you think? Like, ayah doesn't stop there, and it says, فَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّهُمْ بمفازة من العذاب. So don't think that they are, they have some distance from azab. And لهم عذاب أليم, and for them there's a really this painful or increased, I don't know, in magnitude, the azab. So I keep saying azab. I didn't translate it as punishment. Let's take it as azab for now. To me, it's a very interesting Quranic terminology, the concept azab. It's not just punishment. It's not torture. It's something else. So I will leave it as it is. Then maybe we can expand. Well, maybe we can start from there. Like, why there's azab then? Why it's talking about azab? Because we talked about the beauty, how we're seeking for it, and why we are trying to get some credit out of it. And then why I almost saying that when you do that, the next step, or the next thing, immediate thing, not even next, immediate thing, it's fair, right? Yes. Immediate thing you get is azab. Let's say pain for now. What's going on there?
So I think it probably relates directly to this statement of for what they did not do. So perhaps this ayat is saying that like you think that getting praise from people for something that you think you did is sort of like you deserve to be recognized for something, but actually it's saying, are you from my understanding, it seems to be asking, are you really the one who is doing these things? So if I sort of reflect on myself a bit, if I maybe can go back to the example of making a meal for someone, do I know for sure that I can consistently make this wonderful, delicious meal every single time for my family member? And I think deep down, we sort of understand that this doesn't work this way. Like we can't really sustain these good qualities because I feel like we don't sort of have that capacity to keep going on and on. One example I kind of thought about is, for example, if someone is working on their resume, and let's say they embellish sort of a skill that they think their employers would like them to have, but they're not really that good at it. But it's like they say, you know what, I am this good, I can be this good. But then when they get into the job, they see, oh, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be. And I can't keep up with this expectation that I need to do this skill perfectly every single time. So I think sort of the adab comes from this realization that this praise from others we can't really sustain that, and it brings us a sort of pain and stress to like try to keep meeting those expectations that never seem to end through every stage of our life.
So alhamdulillah, this is really good point. Like every praise actually means you are this good, and this is what expected from you. And think about your, especially like the high school years, maybe beginning of the college. So if you are an A student, meaning getting A's all the time, maybe sometimes it's, easy, not for everybody. I know, for instance, our sister Aisha Nurse, that with the grades, I remember a few examples she gave before. But when it comes to Abdurrahman, for instance, he is good, right? So but it's a huge stress. So I apologize if you are not, A type of student, but I was. I know. It's a huge stress. It's not just achievement that we are talking about there. It's about all expectations. I mean, what is the difference when you think about it? What is the difference, let's say, A minus and A plus, or B minus and A? Nothing. Right? But it's whole world. Where people says, no, you have to do it. You are so good, meaning you have to do it. And you know that it doesn't work. Like the one example I keep giving, sometimes when I say the daughter, Bushra, oh, Bushra, you can do it. You can, read it. She says, no, Daddy, I cannot. And I say, because I cannot accept that, I say, no, you can do it. And she gets annoyed because she knows she cannot. Why I'm, trying to put all this weight on her shoulders? If, for instance, she doesn't know how to read, and just because she reads a letter, she learns how to read A, let's say, recognize. And she says, oh, this is A. I say, oh, that's great, read the sentence. She knows that she cannot do that. But if I insist, what happens? She starts crying. Because it's not something she can carry. She doesn't enjoy this anymore. The same applies to us as well. When you start praising me, I, fake myself. I, trick myself that, yes, I can do that. But I know that I cannot sustain it. I get, A from one class. If you ask me how you did it, I will definitely give you some, some memorized answers. Like you have to work hard, you have to do your homeworks, and so on and so forth. But if you start asking me more and more, you will realize I don't even know what I did. I just sat in front of the book. I opened it, I look at it, and somehow it was inscribed in my memory. I have no control on any of these steps. And then I got the A. So if I, trick myself that I did it, and the next time when I sit in front of the book, and when I look at it, and for some reason it's not inscribed in my memory, I feel so anxious because I don't know what to do. So I cannot carry it. I cannot carry this weight on my shoulders. So it doesn't work. So, and that's the reason, I kept Azab. So the whole point is we know that I cannot, yes, I want this beauty, goodness in my life. I want to protect it. I want to sustain it. Thus, I say, okay, it's mine. I will protect it. But at the same time, I know that I cannot sustain it. And when I face this reality, for some people, it takes years to face. Right? They, lie myself, I lie myself for years and years and years that, no, I can sustain. And then it stops. When I face this reality, this is what azab is. Like it both means, the word azab both means sweetness and also not sweetness, just the opposite of sweetness. It's really interesting. So like water is fresh in Quran, in certain ayahs, for instance, talk about the fresh water, it's azab. But when it talks about, the pain, it's azab as well. Another meaning is cutting like a link or connection between two things. So let's apply it to our story. I have me, I have goodness there. And I say, I am the creator of this goodness. I make this false, the connection between the two. I created the success that is given to me. That's what I say. And what I get out of it? Pleasure, sweetness. It's there for me, right? And then next moment, the connection between the two, goodness and myself, is cut. My Lord, the trainer, educator, says, Mirkal, you are doing wrong. So for now, I will cut it. Meaning I will not give you A. Or the food that you prepare next time, it will be so bad. And you will serve it to 40 people. Be ready. I apologize in advance. And then everybody will talk about how a terrible cook you are. Right? The connection is cut. What I get? Pain. This is azab all together. And Quran says, don't think that such people who have goodness in their life, they appreciate, they enjoy it. This is good. You should enjoy. But then take a further step and credit this, the goodness to themselves. Don't think that the azab is not for them. It is for them, and actually it is so big for them. So it's like you see what Quran does. It's not just giving us some rules or criticizing or so on. So it says, describing ourselves, what we do, and then giving a prescription. This is the reason. Birkan, I know that you are full of pain in your life. And one big reason is that I gave you enjoyment. I gave you the goodness, beauty, so that you enjoy. And instead of enjoying it, you just wanted to shoulder it yourself. And this is the reason you have pain in your life.
Yes, we have a question. We have.
Oh, yeah, please.
So, I don't know. So from the way you explained it, becomes really obvious why the azab naturally follows. But where it says, never think of them to be in safety from the azab, which means I do think of them. And let's just say I am this people who is praising and taking credit. So I do think of myself as safe from the azab. It's like, and you talk about pleasure, that I have this, I'm going to use this word carefully. I have this tendency of deluding myself into thinking. And even though it is paining me, but I still do it. So this sounds like something very silly, but I don't feel like, let's just say even I score a goal and my team praises me. And the next time I try to work
Playing what?
Playing whatever sport.
Polo, for instance. Just, yeah.
Playing polo. And then my team praises me and then I take on this responsibility. But I don't feel like I'm doing something contradictory at that point, if that makes sense. Because from the way you've put it, it seems something that I'm doing something very silly. And it's like something obviously should not be doing. But it doesn't come that naturally to me, at least in the moment. Or like, when things are actually happening and I do delude myself. So like, why does that happen? And where's like, how do you remedy that at least in the moment? So you don't like take on that self.
Behind door, yes.
You can answer first.
Oh, no, please go ahead.
Yeah. So I think it's something similar to what Zarar was saying. It seems very human to do that, and at the moment you've explained something so beautifully. It's it becomes obvious, but how do we remedy that, right? Like I would be stopping myself or finding myself wanting this praise, and I can say right now, I'm gonna work on it, but I feel like it's something so natural. Like, how do we unlearn that?
Like, just to make another comment, so it just says never think of them to be in safety. And I feel next time someone's going to tell me I scored a great goal and I saved the team, I'm going to forget and I will think I am safe from that azab again. So
this is just from a parent. So in terms of you're saying about your daughter showing her whatever she drew, so we're taught to not to say, wow, you did such a wonderful job. Instead, be like, wow, that's nice. You drew an airplane with 2 colors. So it's rather than praising the person, praise what they have done. So instead of saying someone is smart, why is that person smart? So it'd be like, I appreciate you helping me, influence me to go the right direction. So I think that might help not being an egotistical person and just reaching out for that praise. Instead, it really makes you think about the good things you're doing. So for a child, it's pointing out that what they drew is nice and they can continue drawing. They can be more creative. And with adults, it can be like the good thing that I bring into all of just describing them in general as being good.
Just to add to that, tag on what Noor said, if I'm not disappointed when I don't score that goal, then if I'm like, I'm fine, I played terribly and I didn't cooperate with my teammates, but I don't really care. I came to a spiritual state. I don't really care. And then you won't stay in the team because they want people who would actually. I mean, it's not just you can't stay in the team. It's just nobody can have a team like that. We need that. When I do something terrible, maybe that's connecting with the natural part that there's something in us saying you have potential given to you. You can do better. And how do you combine that with the awakening? With the awakening that it's not about me. With the other one.
Assalamualaikum everybody, Saira here if I may. Jazakallah khair for this very nice retreat here for our discussion today. Two things come to mind when I read this ayah and in the light of what everybody else said, what everybody else have said. When I look at even the program today, accepting praise and seeking perfection and then solitude, I noticed that there is an inherent connection with this ayah, because Allah Ta'ala is telling us to recognize the importance of what to give up, especially when you have no role in claiming something. So any good deed, even when we do, that's why I understand and appreciate why scholars and ustad and ustadas and imams who are humble, they will always say, every good is from Allah, and if I've made any mistakes, they are from me. So the humility level is raised, and it should be raised, and it should be kept raised, so that we are on our, as we say here, on our toes, and we recognize that the work is constant, whether it is ibadah or it is service of humanity and shepherding of the earth. And another thing that comes to mind in the context of adults working together and teamwork and hierarchy in organizational setup, I'm reading a lot of literature these days because of my dissertation, which is on spirituality in the US education system, K through 16, and why it's missing, and why social emotional curriculum may have all of the virtues and values that a religion teaches, but there is no mentioning of the spiritual development of youth or students because of the separation of state and church in this country, in the US. So when we are assuming a place of or position of responsibility, either as a supervisor or boss or as the CEO of some private or corporate organization, there's a huge responsibility morally and consciously that that person now assumes, which is, I'm going to not lead by blindly people following me, but that I should also be questioned if I make any wrong decisions. And so it keeps in check the Khalifa, so to speak, the Caliph or the head of the household or of the organization. That perhaps it could be that your lower self and its desires are going to take a hold of your intellect or your heart, and that's where you will denigrate from your responsibility. So if there is work that others have done, don't assume or claim that you have made it happen, because you didn't. You just sat in your office, signed a couple of documents, and all of the work and the brunt was borne by the frontline staff. At the same time, there's a message for those who are deprived by destiny and also by how, obviously the, how we say, the factors, the asbab, have made an impact on a person's constant efforts, but rejection or failure. And there is a lesson in there too, that just don't feel overwhelmed or jealous or despair because of the fact that someone else has more than you do in terms of praise and that they revel in it. So you will see whether it is anyone, any background of religion, the affluent rejoice and revel and do everything to the maximum that they can in terms of luxury and its unending pursuit as well as quote unquote enjoyment. But those who are deprived and they know how to live with nothing and they are nameless, as we see with Gaza and people in Palestine getting killed and dispossessed, but there is no mention unless people who take upon themselves to mention it because of their good conscience, whether they are journalists, Muslim or non-Muslim, or people who are using social media to bring up truth, which is very actively being hidden and has been hidden, been hid for decades. So Allah Ta'ala is giving a hopeful message here that A, don't fall into that category who is having an ego inflation going on, and B, know that your strife and your deprivation is not going to be unaccounted, that it will be acknowledged. So long as whatever roles we assume in our lives personally and in collective social spheres, we fulfill those responsibilities ethically and still learn and practice to stay humble.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much. I apologize for interruption, but we have very limited time. So I can give only like a 1 minute to everybody.
So maybe if I can just
Yeah, please.
maybe summarize sort of what I feel like the comments we've heard so far are addressing. So it seems like we can come to this intuitive understanding that we are not the owners of the things that we are sort of achieving and wanting to be praised for, like this ayat mentions. But then the problem that sort of I think you all have touched upon is that we keep doing this. Like we keep doing this all the time. And sort of I guess the question becomes, why do we keep sort of attributing these good qualities to ourselves? And one thing perhaps could be that, the pleasure that we feel upon getting praised is oftentimes transient. Like if I leave this retreat today feeling good about myself for speaking about here, for example, like that's not going to last probably for the very long. So we feel this need to be consistently praised to renew this feeling of pleasure. And oftentimes we don't see any other solution, especially in this society. Like the sister was saying, if you mess up in a game, you can't just, it's hard to be like, oh, this was a plan from my creator to teach me something. Other teammates are probably going to be like, what are you talking about? You just played terribly. And so we often feel like the only one we can rely on is ourselves. So this concept of self-reliance, I think, comes into play, where if I can't create these good qualities in myself, then nobody can. And sort of this feeling kind of persists, right? I want to be praised. It's kind of like an internal desire that I will consistently feel. But then the fact that I can't sustain it hurts me. So sort of now then thinking, what's the potential solution for all this?
And maybe one point. So when we read such ayahs, and when it describes our human state and saying that you are in pain or you get pain when you do this or do that, we shouldn't directly jump into conclusion, oh, then I will stop what I've been doing. So as Zarin said, this feeling is there. You cannot also control this feeling. Like you want to be successful in this game you play, as Sister Isra also saying that when you don't do that, something bad happens in your life. And as a humanity, we want goodness in our lives. So we need some, at least like the focal point, like some people who manifest this goodness. We want this. When this doesn't happen, everybody starts, doing just mediocre jobs. We feel bad. So solution shouldn't be that, oh, ayah is telling me that I was asking for praise and I was doing for the goodness that in front of me. The solution shouldn't be, okay, I will train myself so that I will not feel this way. But rather, at least to me, the more realistic approach is that ayah tells me that when you have this goodness in your life, you tend to attribute it to yourself, and the problem starts there. Problem is not that there's goodness in your life. Or problem is not that you enjoy it, rejoice it. The problem is that you want hamd for it. You want to be praised. That's the problem. So I hope it's clear that it's not, the idea is not that, okay, now the Quran told me something very reasonable and I will apply in my life. How? I will train myself. Know like after this moment, I will stop feeling good when there is something good in front of me. No. So let's continue. If you don't mind, we have really limited time. I apologize. But I will ask more questions maybe coming moments. So let's continue with, as Zarin said, let's continue with trying to finding a solution. At least now we know the problem. And the problem shouldn't be, this is also important, the problem shouldn't feel also external. It's not like, Quran telling me, if you keep doing this, you will get pain, Birkan. No, it's talking about the present tense. Ayah says, you get pain, don't you? So if, for instance, there's someone among us saying that, no, I've been keep doing it all my life, and there's no pain, there's no stress, I'm so happy in my life. If there's such person, I apologize that I couldn't explain it well. But Ayah, Zarin did her job perfect, but not me. But Ayah says, this is what you are, Birkan. It's not that what you will be, what you are. You have pain in your life. You have stress, anxiety in your life. And this is one reason. So we know that this is the state. And let's continue maybe with trying to find at least a solution. An ayah that, most of us knows. It's the beginning of, if you don't count, the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it's the first ayah that we, the face when we open Quran. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Hamd. Starting with the same thing. The previous ayah was saying that you were asking for hamd, praise or thank or appreciation. And this ayah says, all hamd is his. Only his. So when I read this ayah, I always ask question like, what hamd is talking about? Like, what praise the ayah is talking about? But starting from the previous ayah, I think it's obvious for us now what praise we are talking about. Because in our life, it's full of, the things that deserves to be praised. The goodness, beauty is always there in our lives. And we say, okay, this goodness goes to Asim, this goodness goes to Dua, this goodness goes to Abdurrah, Qadir, this goodness goes to, and so on, right? That's what we do. Ayah says, okay, let's start correcting some stuff. All hamd goes to him. Maybe we should start, trying to at least understand it. Sorry.
Jazakallah khair, that was very beautiful. So I guess the solution lies then, from what I understand, is finding the true sort of owner of these things that we have concluded that deserve praise, but who is it that really deserves all the praise? And that's answered very beautifully at the very beginning of the Quran. So I guess it's saying that, whoever is the one that created all this goodness and all these achievements must be the one who is creating and sustaining sort of everything, and our praise that we naturally want to attribute to things that are good should then be attributed to the owner of all of these good things, from what I understand and what we've discussed so far. And so I guess sort of the question becomes like, sort of how does this help me then, would be the next step.
Sure.
What does God have to do with Haidar's omelets? Like Haidar made the omelet.
Great point, yes.
What do you think? Why shall I praise God for Haidar doing the omelet?
What's the question? Sorry? What's the question you have? Oh, she says, like, where does God come to the picture? Like we were just talking about the omelet that Haidar cooked. Why you are talking about God now? He says. And the answer is, we didn't say God. Just kidding. So there's like a continue from where you start. They're asking the question who really deserves it, or who really can shoulder it, let's say. Because let's summarize. I want this goodness, beauty, perfection in my life because I want to be valuable, because I want to be appreciated, because I want to know that I exist. And I want this goodness perpetuated in my life, right? This is what I want. And when I try to shoulder it myself, I fail. It gives me nothing but stress, nothing but pain, because I cannot. That's my reality. And who can, sustain it, this goodness, beauty in my life? That's the question, because the feeling is there, right? The way I understand, at least, this Quranic understanding is when you have this feeling of anything, even the hatred, you have to ask, what does this feeling tell me? Because it is created in you as well. You are not the creator of this feeling. You cannot, for instance, switch off, right? When you are angry with this little one, I wish I can switch off. I cannot. It is given to me so that I listen, I learn something. The same thing, the feeling is there. The praise, the excitement about goodness and so on, it's there. So the question, what it's telling me? And I try to attribute to myself, it fails. And Quran says, oh, you should attribute to the one who is the Rabb of every, the thing you can think of. Like, Rabbul Alamin can be translated in different ways, in different contexts. But within our context, it is like whoever has control over everything, that's the one who deserves the praise. But why are we talking about everything? Maybe we can, rephrase your question. We were just talking about an omelette that Haidar made. So when we look carefully, the goodness we said, right? We said it tastes good. It was prepared in a good way. If I, start looking at it, what I see there, indeed, I realize that, when I say taste good, for instance, I mean that it is prepared or it exists in a way that it, satisfies certain, the sensation of my body. That's what taste is, right? So implicitly, I'm saying that either Haidar or the food itself can control the sensation of my body and say that, you will get pleasure out of it. I mean, the way my body works could be completely different, and the food he prepares could be disgusting for me, right? It is a possible, the reality. But for some reason, Haidar knows apparently, how my body works, how my tongue works, right? And then it doesn't stop with the tongue. Also, the smell is good. Haidar also knows how to control these air molecules so that the smell will travel from the food to my nose. He controlled all of these. He, they accounted for all of these. That's what I claim. And I look at Haidar, he cannot even, the seats, the still for 2 minutes. And I said, maybe it was not him that thought about all these details. And then it doesn't stop there. It will be digested. It has to be really perfectly fitting to my digestive system. And then it goes to my stomach and then being circulated in my body. All this together is food tasting good means. So the food tastes good is something, not an isolated thing, but embedded within these entire, the reality. He has to control the heat to cook the food. It means he has to control, or whoever is controlling, has to control all the chemical reactions, physical reactions, and so on taking place in the universe. And I know from my little education, I spent 30 and so on years to be educated, that all these reactions happening here happens everywhere in the universe as well, meaning Haidar can not only control what's happening here, he also controls the entire universe, this magical guy. So this is what it means to cook good. Just give me a second. So I realize that whatever is happening there, just a food tasting good, necessitates someone who can control the entire reality that I experience, Rabbul Alamin. That what I need to have a good tasting food. And I didn't even talk about, the sun, the lights coming and so on and so forth, because you need to grow some vegetables or meat, whatever you are cooking. Oh, it was omelette, the egg, so chickens. So you have to be talking about this, right? Rabbul Alamin. So when it says, Alhamdu Lillahi, and then explaining what it means with Allah. Allah is a proper name, right? It's like a dua. By itself, it doesn't mean anything. It needs to be explained. What do you mean? Which dua? Kind of. It says, I'm talking about the Rabbul Alamin. All hamd needs to go to Rabbul Alamin. It's not, again, a normative sentence. It's not like you should do that, otherwise. It's not that. It's giving you the reality. Whatever goodness you have in your life, the one that you were trying to attribute to yourself, aren't you aware that this goodness requires the one who can control everything in your life, Rabbul Alamin. Aren't you aware that that's what ayah says? So the two quick questions first, Natalia, and then dua, inshallah. Very quick questions. Okay?
So it is a quick question.
Yeah, good question.
It's fine? Okay. So what did the maker of the omelet do? What is part in making the omelet? And what's the difference between the person that makes a good tasting omelet and a person that makes a bad tasting omelet?
One gets praise.
I think my question is along the same lines. Like, then what about Haider's intentions or his hard work? I think maybe it's natural to want to get some acknowledgement for you to repeat that behavior in the future. So then if I don't want that acknowledgement, if I shouldn't seek that acknowledgement from my wife, for example, who should I be seeking that from?
Yeah, I guess one way I guess you could think of it is so what is my role then in all these things that I'm doing? I guess one way to think of it is perhaps that maybe my role in all of this is to make that choice and have that good intention that, you know, I'm doing these things, but they aren't, like, I don't own them. So, like, for example, with making the omelet, like Birkan was saying, there's so much that we like don't control. Like, you can say that, oh, I've reached out, grabbed all the food, I have to do these actions to flip the egg. But the reality is we're just making choices, and that we're not actually controlling, for example, which neurons in our hands are like sending the signals to our brain and which signals are getting sent back to our hands about, you know, how we know what ingredients to grab for or what actions we need to do to make the egg. Those are things that are outside of our control, but they're still happening within this well-controlled system. And we see that system extends to everything in sort of everything in this existence and in this creation. So if I can't control the system, then there must be someone else who is capable of controlling not only my, or like who is worthy of the praise of like these actions that are taking place, and who is also sustaining everything else in the universe. So I believe that that praise needs to go back to the one who originates sort of all of these things that we see. And sort of what happens, I think, in our lives is that we tend to misdirect this praise because maybe we see reflections of our creator in our existence. Like, we can see certain names of our creator if, for example, with the omelet, someone who is nourishing someone else, but the actual like nourisher is not I guess Brother Haider who's baking the omelet. It is the one who is the source of all nourishment, would be the way I think of it, at least.
And because we have only like 5 minutes left, so maybe just very short cut, I would say what is the difference between the two is just the will. Like, that's what we have in our hands. That's the only thing that I will. Sometimes I will to do good. Sometimes I will not to do good. And when I will to do it good, if it, you know, if it's good for me to have this goodness in my life, the Creator give it to me. Sometimes he does not. But that's the only thing I have, the willing, asking for, prayer. Whatever I do, for instance, when I go to the kitchen, when I start, stirring the eggs and so on, mixing the things.
Does anyone own a white SUV? I don't know, more some enclave, I guess.
No.
I think correctly. No one here?
Where's it from?
The Buick.
Back.
Oh, yeah, I know where that.
It was there, yeah. So all you do is asking. I mean, consciously or unconsciously, intentionally or not, that's all you do. Just ask. And you know that because sometimes something happens and you cannot move your hand. You ask for it, but it doesn't work. If it was you, moving your hand, you would be able to move it every time you wish, right? But nowadays, especially, with me, sometimes I cannot, for instance, they hold my daughter because my back hurts. So I'm asking, but it's not given. Sometimes it is given. And I know from this relationship that all I do is asking, nothing more. Kadir first, and then Sister Isra, maybe very, very quick, inshallah.
I have two questions. First one is like, if you do not attribute the praise to the creator and then you seek praise from other people, is it being ungrateful? And the second question is like, it says all praise is due to Allah. So is everything in this world praiseworthy or not? Like, is everything in this world perfect or not? That is my question. Like, should everything that exists around us should be praised, all of that? Or from what I kind of understand is like, only you should praise the good things, but everything is from the creator. So how do I do that?
Yeah, very quickly too.
Those are deep questions. I just want to highlight gratitude because we feel something. If let's say you graduate, you feel there is a positive feeling that's coming to you, and to say, well, I didn't do it, whatever, but I'm grateful. So we can be happy, and there is a way to express that happiness and say, I'm so grateful, because I do prefer graduating over not graduating. I do prefer being a means for something beautiful rather than something that's not beautiful. So there is something in me that is inclined towards rejoicing, and that rejoice, we channel it, oh, I'm so great, and we can channel it back to the correct, I'm very grateful. We can take it to the gratitude.
Alhamdulillah.
And nurses that.
I guess that's the exact point that we want to reach maybe very quickly. So when we have this mindset, right, when we realize that whatever we're talking about, you has to be facing the Rabbul Alameen. That's the only thing, even with the tiniest thing in your life. The knowledge, the wisdom, the power that you see in it, which is all encompassing, you say that, okay, only Rabbul Alameen can do it. When you realize this, it opens like a door of a new world, because you start looking at everything in the same way. Whatever in your life, it's a jacket. You realize, wait a second, to have such a jacket, I need Rabbul Alameen. To have this tree, I need Rabbul Alameen. To have a mosquito, I need Rabbul Alameen. Right? Everything in your life, everything you experience, coming from the same and only source, and that's the only explanation you realize. When it doesn't stop there, and you start looking at it, and you say that whatever I look, even like we have to move very quick here. I apologize for like a Kadir, I cannot maybe give a proper answer to your question whether everything is beautiful or just whatever you see as a beautiful. But everything in your life, whatever you look, you will realize that it is a product of the same all-knowing, all-powerful, all-merciful ones. That's His doing. That's the conclusion you reach. And when you reach that, Yes, you say that everything is created beautifully, but even if you take the other way around and you say like a other point and you say, no, I see some beautiful things and I see some ugly things. Okay, that's like a stay there. For those that you have this gratitude, what you need to do. So again, the point is not there. You have to do this, otherwise. It's not the case. Like, rather, the ayahs are telling me that when you don't do it, you get pain. This is your reality. And now I will explain you how not to get pain. It's not that I'm punishing you and giving you pain. This is your fitra. This is how you are designed. When you do it in the wrong way, you get pain. You don't like it. Your humanity doesn't accept it, right? So anyway, you look at the things in your life and you say that everything is created by the same all-knowing, all-powerful, all-merciful creator, the Rabbul Alameen. So when you make this connection, you also realize that, wait a second, I'm also product of the same source. I'm beautiful. Like the way that a flower is created. I am created in the same way, even with this face. I know it's apparently not that beautiful, but when you think about it, it is so beautifully created. It's an artwork, how it put together, all these different systems working in me. The fact that I can breathe, I can speak, I can see, and I enjoy all these things. Everything coming together. The fact that I like certain things, I don't like certain things, and so on. All these different connections I have with the reality. I am a so beautiful artwork, I realize, when I make this connection on me. So the value I was looking for before, what I was looking for, a beautiful t-shirt. I wear a beautiful t-shirt and somebody praised me, and that was my value. Before I was seeking for that. Now, when I make the connection with the Rabbul Alameen and I see that I am his artwork, I have a much bigger value now. Who cares about its t-shirt anymore? Right? So it's not like the ayahs or Quran is depriving you from something. It's saying that because you were created for something more. Why you are chasing after, getting a praise for your color choice? You are a human being created by the Rabbul Alameen. Everything about you is so, the accounted, so, the carefully designed. Everything about you is beautiful. It doesn't stop there either. When you make this connection, through the connection of, the Rabbul Alameen, Quran calls it as Iman, you realize that, wait a second, it's not only me, even Qadir is beautiful. I know it sounds funny, but yes, it is. Even, the other people are beautiful. Even the ones that I was competing with. Before, I was trying to be best student because I have to compete with all these people because I was limited with the success or wisdom that I can shoulder. Now, when I realize that the wisdom or success I see on other people as well, they are the artwork of the same source. They are telling me that, Birkan, your creator is creates so beautifully. He is the all-wise one. Look at me, he says. And when I look at him, I see a value for me. So, again, going back to like a starting point, we were after what? A colorful t-shirt and getting praise out of it. Now, wherever I look, even the ones that I've been competing with, giving me the value that I need, giving me the pleasure that I need. Every instance of successful polo playing I say that I like it. Because it's my creator doing it. So it opens up a door to a reality that you were not even, you couldn't even imagine before. Such a value, such a beauty, such a goodness, perfection, and perpetual one. Not the one stops when your back hurts. Even if your back hurts, I know that Yusuf is still powerful. It means my creator continues to create power that I'm looking for. And I start appreciating it. When I cannot carry my, the shopping bags, I call him and he carries for me. I enjoy it, So as start maybe at the ending point, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel, when you find him, he's enough for you. This is what you've been looking for anyway. That's the reason this feeling was created in you, so that you will find him. You were looking for praise, you tried it, you failed, it hurt you, but you still want goodness in your life, you still want success or whatever you are you're looking for. And when you fail, when you try to attribute to yourself or anyone else, and when you think, and when you found Rabbul Alameen, then it is enough for you. It is what you've been looking for anyway. Now it satisfies you. So going back to initial questions, what I'm going to do now, am I going to train myself so that I don't get pleasure? No. Follow your feeling. Let it fails you first, right? Experience it, that I cannot do it, but there must be someone who's doing it. Who is doing it? Let me ask myself, find Rabbul Alameen, and realize that it is enough for you. It is much bigger than you've been imagining. You get more out of it now. That's the solution Quran gives. Quran is not trying to restrict us or telling us that don't do this, don't do that. No. It says there's more. Don't waste your time with these tiny things. I will give you the real thing that you want.
Jazakallah khair. I think with that, we should probably conclude this session so we can have time to listen to our other wonderful speakers on the different topics. So I'll just say the closing dua. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا وأنت عليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.